Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Breath Hub at Work. We have Jenny here. She is a very experienced teacher. She has been working with many people. I would like you to first introduce yourself, Jenny, and then we can go on the questions.
Okay, of course. So my name's Jenny, and I started my kind of career in wellness as a personal trainer. So I did psychology was my undergraduate study. Then I got a job in the corporate world and absolutely hated it. I found I was so stressed doing the typical. I think I had Sunday fear from Saturday. That's how much I hated it. And, so drinking too much just to kind of get through. So all those kind of things. So then I trained to become a personal trainer and finally kind of got the confidence to take the plunge and make that my career. So that's where I started off. And then so this is kind of ties in. I've had, ever since I started getting into this career, I had quite bad imposter syndrome. So I never felt like I was good enough. So I would do course after course after course, thinking that would then make me feel like I would be enough to do it. So that's why I'm now quite qualified. So I've trained as a Pilates instructor. And then I went to India and did my yoga teacher training, which was amazing. And then I've done another yoga course in India as well. And then I've recently done a master's in sports psychology. And then I've done various other little courses, and I kind of brought it all together to help people. And now I'm working kind of with corporates to help improve their employee well-being. So that's kind of my journey so far.
Wow. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, you are qualified. Yeah, and I believe you're using all these techniques, yoga and Pilates and breathing and your psychology training when you work with corporates. I'm going to just begin with asking you a general question. What do you think of the corporate environment right now? Like, of course, around when we think of the psychology of people and employees, what's going on?
But I think at the moment, particularly, there's a lot of uncertainty because, after we came out of the pandemic and then now, the economy as it is, like I know that in certain industries, they are talking, how they can cut costs, and obviously redundancies and things are going to be one of those ways. So if you're living in a sort of fear of, is your job safe? And then if your job's not safe, there's so little, there's a lot less opportunities at the moment, it seems. Like I've got a friend who's been looking for a job, like normally finds it really easy to get work. She's a freelancer, and it's taken her months, whereas normally it would be instant. So yeah, that kind of living with uncertainty is very difficult. It's like we don't like uncertainty. And I think that was one of the parts of the pandemic that was really challenging. It's just not knowing. It's like constant change and like what's going to happen. So yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of sort of stress and burnout because and presenteeism. So presenteeism is when you're at work, so physically at work, but you're not actually really working. You're not necessarily engaged. You're not motivated. And I think it was Deloitte actually said they found out that presenteeism costs employers 3 times more than sick days, because also if you don't take time off when you are actually sick, this is a side note, you're actually more likely to, you're going to extend how long you are ill for because you're not giving your body that time to kind of recover. And then also you're more likely to be ill later down the line. So that's something else going on. But yeah, I think
I'm gonna just ask you, like, what's the reason behind that?
Behind what?
Behind going to work when you're sick, even sick, and like, what's the choice over there? Like, why are they doing it? Yeah.
I think, well, it's actually got worse when people were doing the hybrid working because you're not there physically. People think, you have to prove something because you worry that everyone's going to think that you're just slacking. So they feel like that people actually ended up working more because they kind of felt like if you're not there physically, you need to be there more online. So that was one of the reasons. And I think it's also, it's this culture of, not letting, you don't want your employees, your colleagues to think that you're slacking. So it's just putting on, so it's just not being able to feel that you can take time off when actually it's really important to take time off.
Yeah, it is important because it gets worse. It builds up. Maybe it's important to understand that it builds up and then many people experience burnout syndromes really serious symptoms. Yeah, I mean, of course, I can understand both sides of the story because of the economic situation. You know, the businesses are right now bootstraps, like they are trying to really, trying to decrease the, you know, any kind of expenses they have or they might have, and they're just, you know, decreasing the number of people in their teams. I can understand that, but then there is this whole situation. So it's actually around the whole world, around the whole corporate environment. It's not just you know, about the employees, but also freelancers. And then I'm going to ask you the question: most common employee symptoms and benefits of breathing and benefits of the work you're doing. I'm going to start with, how do you work with employees in the corporate environment? Like, do you have different packages? Do you work one-on-one? Do you do workshops? What's the procedure there? And what common symptoms are we facing with?
Right. Yes, there are different packages. So the thing that I really want employers to do is like kind of the complete package. I wanted to put together a solution that actually worked. I feel like a lot of people, it's like, you know, this band-aid tick box exercise. I know from myself, sort of teaching classes in corporates, it's all very well for the people who want to come to it, but also there's lots of people that don't, for one thing, and also you're not meeting people, asking them what they want. That's very important. And also, if it's just like a weekly yoga class isn't going to cure everything. You need a lot more than that. So the thing that I've put together is like a long sort of process, but it's aimed to really get to like the root cause of the situation. So the first is to find out what the employees want. Engaging employees in an intervention is the best way to get buy-in, and also to give them what they actually need, not just what you think they need. Then there's also working with the leadership team. It has to come from above. They have to lead from example. They can't just tell their employees what to do and then not do it themselves. And also from this, sort of having it in their employers or in the company's objectives, and, you know, actually really making sure they are including well-being into what they're doing, you know, into their budgets, everything like that. So that's the next stage. And then a series of workshops. So I can do different ones. So I'm doing one on Tuesday on resilience. So resilience helps us cope with challenges in our lives. So they could be sort of big things or smaller things. So that's one of them. Stress management, nutrition, eating's very important for our health. Sleep, I think all those things that are kind of the pillars of performance, to get those kind of the educational phase there. And then there's the coaching, so working one-to-one with the employees to help them implement what they learn on the workshops. So like a lot of people, we know what we should be doing, but the problem is implementing that change. And so motivational interviewing is a psychology technique, and it's designed at helping people overcome ambivalence. So meeting them where they are, helping them decide what they're going to change. Because, you know, telling someone what to do, we all know no one likes to be told what to do, and you're not likely to do it. And then there's like the ongoing support after that. So online resources, so they can sort of check in. And then I'm working with someone at the moment to develop a tracking app. So not in competition with each other, because that's really demotivating. It's all very well for someone like me who would like be at the top of the leaderboard. Like, I know I do like way over 12,000 steps a day. But if someone's very like, you know, not really moving, they would find that really demotivating. So it's very much about getting them to be in competition with themselves. So like only just trying to see their own improvement, because feedback, if you're not measuring something, you can't see if you're making any progress. And also, like, our brains really like series. So you know how apps are designed, like I've got the insight timer, the meditation one, and it tells you like how many days you've meditated. And because our brains like series, you don't want to ruin your run, so then you're more like motivated to keep it going. So that is like kind of the complete package. So yeah, and obviously if people can't quite do the whole thing, then they could pick bits of the workshops they think are most suitable. But ideally they would go for like the big solution that's actually going to like fix it, and then obviously the benefits will last a lot longer.
Yeah. And how do you use breath work and breathing with that? Because I see in my experience that um, breathing is much more easier for anyone. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's much more effective. It's much more powerful. It's much
yeah.
more fast than any other method. And yeah, I agree. Like everybody is in different stages. Maybe, you know, some people might even find it hard to practice yoga regularly, Pilates regularly, or maybe that might not be their choice. And, but breathing and breath work, everybody can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, not depending on their age or their physical state, because they're already breathing. So how do you integrate breathing techniques and breath work into this whole practice to help them?
Well, it's
of course for many different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually like sort of quite a big basis of the stress management side of it, because obviously your breath can take you from your sympathetic nervous system into your parasympathetic system very quickly, very easily. I personally, I love different breathing exercises. So yeah, it's just like teaching people, because yeah, like you say, it's very portable. You've always got your breath, hopefully, and you know, when you're in that kind of panic state, just taking some time to do some breathing can really calm you down. So yeah, that's like we teach all of those within lots of different breathing techniques within the stress management workshop, and they're also included on this online portal that employees have access to, so they can either just watch them online or they can follow along. But yeah, like for me, I think it was called, name forgets me. I love box breathing at the moment. I've got an ice bath that I got for myself for Christmas, and it's the only thing. Yeah, as soon as I get in the ice bath, I'm just like, right, in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and that really I think that was when I really realized how good it was, because I was in a very stressed state because I was in the ice bath. And yeah, so I love that. I also love the Brahmari, you know, the humming bee exercise, because I like, even though I knew like how scientifically I know how good meditation is for you, like mindfulness, I knew it, but for some reason I found it so hard to get started. And you know, I think it's because I was trying to do too much. And I always say to people, you know, if you're trying to start a new habit, it comes from, you know, the book Atomic Habits. Start small, so really small. So I went from trying to do sort of 10 minutes meditation to doing 5, and that just changed it completely for me. But the Brahmari breath helped again, because it really helps to calm down your mind. Like when I teach yoga, I try and do that, like some pranayama at the beginning, just because it's instantly, you know, coming into the moment, and it's so good for focusing the mind. And so yeah, that's kind of where we do it. But I mean, ideally I'd like everyone to try and do breath work every day.
I have two things. I think for the 21st century people, because we were, and of course the Westerners, because we grew up with training our minds around performance, because you know, from 5 years old and on, you have goals and, you know, clear some vision for your future, and people ask you about. So it's about, because it's all about performance, I think it's almost impossible for the Westerners and also the 21st century people to meditate without any breathing exercise. It's like we need it. It's because of where we are in our mindset, in the life, the way we live our lives, because of that performing habit. And even you see it, of course, when you dive deep, you see it in people's breathing habits. Like we are all we all have performance breathing habits. That's why people have breathing problems and hypocapnia and all this anxiety and panic attack, as you probably know. So that's very important. I agree. It's like without breathing and breath work. And I also find it I'm a breath work teacher for many years, but I also find it much more effective when instead of me practicing the breathing exercises, closing my eyes and just listening to someone coaching me in those breathing exercises. That's actually why we built Breath Hub, because you know, even if you know all the methods first, it gets very boring.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, I wouldn't be able to, because you said like, everyday breath work. I wouldn't be able to practice breath work. Even me, someone who's an expert and who knows the importance, everything, because breathing techniques, it's kind of like, it gets boring. It's like some fitness exercise, some abs exercise, or whatever. That's the reason why people have personal trainers, or why people have yoga teachers or Pilates teachers. It's exactly the same with breathing. It's like when I'm guided into a breathing session, I can fully relax. If I'm not thinking about, okay, 4 in, pause 4, like box breathing, breathe, inhale for 4, hold for 4. Instead of me, thinking about it, when I'm led into that session, just, relaxing fully, just listening to someone, and I'm just doing what they're saying. First, it's much more relaxing, it's much more calming, it's much more effective. And then the second, it doesn't get boring, because different sessions every day, different content that's exactly why we built Breath Up, by the way, because we can download different sessions, interesting sessions, aligned with what's happening around the world as well, because we know what's happening. So it's kind of like when you bring, I think, great content with expertise, when you bring them together and give people interesting stuff. That's why people join yoga classes, right? For that experience that day.
And also you can learn new techniques that you never knew existed, and because you can be learning. And also I think the time thing as well, because like for me, when I do my own yoga practice, it will probably be about 10 minutes, but it's good, like, just to move. But like, when someone's guiding you, like you say, you kind of get lost, you sort of surrender to it, and you're just like taken on a journey, rather than having to think about, like, have I done enough, should I be like doing longer, should I stop now, that kind of thing. Definitely.
It's a very, I think, human thing. It's like when we need, like, we have this need to lead in some areas of our lives, and we also have this need to be led. So I think that's also, I mean, being a leader of the team and everything. It's like I practice yoga regularly as well. Not every day, but through classes, through Zoom. And I love it. It's like I love being led. That's just such a deep need for me, because I'm managing the whole day. That's kind of like my message to any manager or anyone who needs to lead, especially the executive teams. Like just taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your day, listening to a breathing exercise, listening to someone guiding you, just fulfilling that need to be led. That's very interesting. And then I'm going to also ask you, some people, I mean, that's what I've been figuring out over the years. Like some people, because everybody has different breathing habits and different daily behavioral habits. Some people are very stressed and need stress management tools and breathing techniques that help them to calm down. But I also figured out that some people need the opposite. Like some people need that boost of energy, because some people are, too, way too not relaxed but chill. It's like, and some people need that movement and boost and energy boost. And how do you differentiate? My first question is, how do you differentiate between those? Like, how do you figure out which techniques do you use, or do you coach them? Do you do an assessment to understand where they are, not just physically, but also the way they live, the way they act, more on the behavior side, whether they are, too stressed and too much, focused on performance, or whether they are too laid back and, maybe they're not using because, not using your energy, not using your creative energy also creates another kind of stress or another kind of illnesses and sicknesses. Like I've realized, like people, we usually talk, when we talk about employees and corporate health, we usually talk about stress and burnout and working too much. But the opposite is also true. It's like some people are just too laid back, and some people just don't care much, and that's also creating problems.
Yes, that's very true. I guess mainly through speaking to people and asking questions and delving a little bit deeper to see where they are. can also tell a lot from people's, just from, you know, how they're sort of sitting, or, you know, people who are sort of stressed tend to sort of have that sort of more shallow breathing and also be a bit more like fidgety. And yeah, so then seeing from there. But yeah, it's quite interesting you said about the creativity, because I remember reading something about how, you know, when we're younger we play and we lose that as we get older. And I can't remember what book it was in, but they were saying, like, you know, even art becomes graded, and so it takes away from it just being like an expression. And so it's actually really important for people to find like a creative outlet, not necessarily at work, but no, somewhere. Like, I really like designing things. I like designing presentations, but that's like my kind of creative outlet. And then also, I guess, coming up with yoga sequences, you know, all those kind of things. But if you're not kind of exploring that side of yourself, it can, you know, you're not getting that need met. And so I think, yeah, it's an interesting point to pick up on. But with going back to the breathing, and yeah, so yeah, if someone is kind of more needing a little bit of oomph, a little bit of energy, I do love Kapalabhati, the Breath of Fire. I like, sometimes I was doing that one quite a lot in the winter, because obviously it warms you up quite a lot. Because when I was coming to teaching yoga, and I'll be like, oh, everyone's sort of energy levels are a bit low, so a bit of Breath of Fire. And I've also been doing Wim Hof for quite a few years now. I really like that. I started doing it, I was working in Greece. I was teaching fitness and yoga and Pilates over there. And it's like, always have that sort of afternoon dip and I just feel like exhausted. So I used to go up to like the yoga shala and just do Wim Hof. And then I'd kind of come back feeling all invigorated, ready for the rest of my day. So yeah.
Yeah, so at different times of the day, we need different breathing techniques, and not everybody needs the same breathing technique. I think that's kind of like something very important to understand, because people start thinking, you know, I can use the same breathing technique and it's going to be useful for me as well. But that's not the case, because our chemistries are different, our physiology is different. So like you said, maybe, you know, using Kapalabhati at, you know, certain times of the day when you were low,
not before bed.
or other breathing techniques that can boost our energy when that's needed. Or and it's very interesting. I find breathing obviously very interesting. That's why I've been diving deep into breathing sciences for many years. It's like how it affects our physiology and chemistry, and like overall even behaviors, our thinking habits, and you know. And I'm going to ask you one last thing, because we're almost out of time. I didn't realize how fast the time went. It's just 23 minutes now. So about your own journey, what changed? Like, because you said you didn't like being in the corporate environment, and you clearly went on another mission. And you clearly started another journey for your own life. Like, what changed? Like, when you look back in the past, like the past you and now Jenny of today, what's the main difference? I think that's very important for people, because people need to see those, you know, tangible things. It's like, you know, we talk about, we say practice breathwork every day, practice yoga, and you know, this is going to help you. But how did it change you? Like going on another path and really taking care of yourself, practicing yoga and breathwork, and
well, I think just feeling really healthy. So basically, I suffered terribly with insomnia when I was like a teenager, all the way through. I had quite bad anxiety when I was a teenager, and I didn't know what anxiety was then, because people didn't talk about it. I just thought that I had this feeling and that's how it was. And I used to dread going to bed, because I'd be worrying about not sleeping. It was horrible. I used to be there with my thoughts going off all the time. And then it was when I went to India and did my first yoga training, and we were getting up really early, I think like 5 or so, to breath work. We were doing pranayama, chanting, meditation every morning. We didn't have our phones didn't work. I wasn't going to pay like, you know, extortionate costs for my phone to be working. And also that was the whole point, was to be away from everything. So I was going to bed, no blue light, and I was sleeping for the first time. I felt calmer, my mind, because my mind has always been very busy. And I'd have these horrible thoughts to myself. You know, they say, you know, the things that you think you would never say to anyone else. And it was very much the case. And I came back from India after a month, and I was just, my mind was much stiller, and I was sleeping much better. And I was like, right, I want to keep this. And so since then, like everyone laughs, I do go to bed very early, but I don't have my phone on from 9 o'clock. Phone goes on to airplane mode. All my friends know, don't bother to message me. And then so I don't have the TV or anything. I read. I do the Brahmari breath before bed with my red light, and then I go to bed and read, and then I'll go to sleep. And to be able to sleep has just been, I think I still am. Yeah, I was almost it's still, the thought of being tired still sort of scares me, because I know how exhausted I was all the time. And so being able to sleep, which is like, you know, the foundation for your health, really, it's just changed everything. Like, have more energy, can focus, again, like your emotions are more stable, and so that for me was the biggest thing. And so now, being able to sleep just basically just helps me in life, just to be able to enjoy life, basically. So that was the big fundamental change for me.
Yeah, and you're probably due to that, and you're due to, you know, being rested, well rested. You're thinking differently, you're behaving differently during the day.
Yes.
Less panic, less anxiety, and you're probably breathing differently.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And also like focusing on the breathing, but definitely. So I would recommend
Lovely.
anyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What would be the last message you want to tell to our listeners and whoever is watching us on YouTube right now?
I would say start small if you're trying to get a new habit, and if you want to incorporate breath work or any kind of well-being practice, don't try and do everything. Do one thing and make it really easy and really small, and build it from there. That would be my main tip.
Lovely. Thank you. Start small. That's the way. Thank you. Lovely to see you. Hope to talk to you soon.
Weekend. Yeah, thank you.
You too. Bye. Bye, everyone. See you next time.